Hey there, beautiful souls. Welcome to InnerViews, the podcast where we dive deep into the realms of therapy, healing, and intentional living. I'm your guide on this adventure, Ivory. Are you ready to embark on a transformative journey with me? Whether you're navigating the complexities of trauma, embracing intentional parenting, or seeking self-help strategies, this podcast is your sanctuary. InnerViews is not just a podcast, it's a community. A safe space where stories unfold and healing takes center stage. Your story matters. And here, courageous storytelling is the heartbeat of our existence. We'll be exploring powerful themes like healing, navigating the intricacies of foster care, the strength found in survival, the beauty of reclamation, and the pure bliss of joy. So if you're ready to join hands with a community that understands, subscribe now. Let's walk this path together because the journey toward understanding and well-being starts right here, right now. Welcome to InnerViews, where every step is a celebration of your resilience and a testament to the incredible strength within you. Let's make this journey unforgettable. All right, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of InnerViews. I am super excited today. I have a T1D warrior with me, Destiny Jackson. How are you today, Destiny?
I'm doing good. Hello. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you for please agree to being on this thing. I'm so grateful. You have no idea. I've been trying to find other people who have not only lived experience of child welfare, but type 1 diabetes, because I do feel like there's a connection. And I just want to talk about the intersectionality of those two. So
yes, I feel like this is an experience that I've lived with for a very long time, but I don't usually get asked about it. So I'm definitely excited to talk about this today.
So first and foremost, can you tell us, and me too, because I'm getting to learn you for the first time, who you are, and as much as you're comfortable, talk a little bit about your experience within the child welfare system.
Yes. So hello, my name is Destiny Jackson. I am 21 years old. I also go by Dee Dee, so you can call me either or. My pronouns are she and her. Oops, that's my Dexcom going off. I just ate food and my thing keeps going off, those alerts. So I need to silence these. They
No worries. No worries. This is the reality of T1D, y'all.
Yes, it is. But I got in the foster care system around when 5, 6 years old. And, just all throughout my experience living in the system, diabetes has always been a challenge for me as a growing thing, learning about my diabetes,
Right.
but also just other people living in their experiences as well, being accountable for someone who is type 1 diabetic. I've had parents who have been scared, those who have just denied, them wanting to care for me because they're like, oh no, this is too much. And I don't want to die. And I'm just like, oh, you think because I got diabetes, I'm gonna die? Not all diabetics die. So I've definitely had my ins and outs of it, but I think it's made me into the person I am today, where it's forced me to learn more about my body and be an advocate for myself rather than allowing someone else to take control of my health. So yeah.
Oh, your energy is just fantastic. I'm just so excited. I consider this to be a form of activism, right? Sharing your story to normalize it for others, but to also point out where and how we can make systemic change, how we can make the experiences for those with these experiences, whether it just be child welfare itself or the intersectionality of having a chronic illness, how we can make those things better and make the world a better place for people experiencing those. I'm going to have a lot of questions because I was diagnosed at 16, right? And I had a lot of stability. Yeah, that's later in life, right? And I always think of how grateful I am for that, because before that, I was in about 12 different schools, 12 different homes. And that's not even that much compared to a lot of people that I know and have talked to. But I can't really imagine what that would have been like to have been type 1 diabetic. I went into foster care when I was around 4 years old, to have been in care when I was younger. And I feel like you have less agency over your health and your care and your protocols when you're younger. So that is kudos to you for being here. You're a survivor. Do you remember at what age were you diagnosed with type 1 diabetes?
Yes, I got diagnosed with diabetes when I was 2 years old. I was very young, but my doctors they think that I was actually born with it, but I didn't get diagnosed until I was 2. Before, I had a bunch of different complications that basically were the same symptoms of diabetes, but they misdiagnosed me with other things before it was diabetes. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so tough. That is so tough. 2. Mm. Well, I think there's some good and some bad with that, right? Because I feel like I always look at people who were diagnosed before they can really remember, like, oh, lucky you, because you don't know what life was like without it. I know it's really terrible, right?
Yes.
It sounds god awful to those of you who don't understand. But I say that because like I got to experience 16 years without this illness, you know?
Yes.
And
And then
like
when you got it, I'm sure your life was probably just like, what? I gotta know
Destiny!
how to take a needle and check my blood
That's
sugar.
when I tell you that was like my biggest fear at the time. Like it was like diabetes, like illness, major illness, or like not getting into Harvard, you know, and like
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not using no needles. What you talking about?
It's so funny that you say that because I remember when I was younger and when I had first got diagnosed with diabetes because I was scared like it's
Yeah.
for freaking needles. And at the time, Dexcoms and CGMs weren't out. So you had to do finger sticks. And oh my Lord. Like, of course, at that time, like, my family was not allowing me to take my own blood sugars and give myself my own needles. So
Yeah,
they used to
yeah.
and I did not like the way they did it. I used to think that it was too hard or it went in too much. I would have marks on my fingers. I used to run under the bed and hide. I used to be like, I'm not eating. I don't care. I don't care about checking my blood sugar.
That is
I used
so
to run
bad.
everything. Now I'm like, okay, give it to me. Give me your best needle.
We're hardened now, right? We're like, how big is it? Okay.
Yes, okay, whatever. Take it like a G.
That's so terrible. It's so funny you bring up the finger thing because this is honestly a really traumatic spot for me. When I was first diagnosed, the nurse came in and she was like rubbing my fingers because, I'm a Black person. I use a lot of lotion and oil, right?
Yeah.
I'm moisturized.
Right.
But my skin is really soft.
Right.
And she's like rubbing my fingers. She's like, oh, you have soft fingers. That won't last long. And I'm just like, oh,
Wow. Okay.
I know, like, thank you. Like, what? But then a few years later, and again, I didn't always have the pump either. Like, I think I got the pump when I was in like college. So for the first 4 or 5 years, I had to do everything like back in the day, manual style. My fingers were so callous from constantly pricking them, sticking them. It was just, oh, the way your body changes with this disease.
Yes.
It is. It's life changing. And you did say how difficult it must have been to be 16. For me, honestly, and so I'm 34 now, type 1 diabetes is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. It is.
Really?
It is. I was in foster care for 17 years. I have been molested. I have been raped. And type 1 diabetes is the top worst thing
Really? Oh
ever.
my God. Compared to your other traumatic experiences?
Yes, it's number one. It's because of the lack of control that I feel. It's
Yeah.
because at any moment, your blood sugar can just plummet. And it
Yeah.
puts you in a position to need people. And I don't like needing people like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to need people, but only in the way that I
I'm
want
an
to.
independent woman. I got this. Let me take control. Let me drive the boat.
Yes. And like I said, I got to experience this body, for 16 years without having type 1 diabetes. So to just always have those memories of like, I remember when I could work out as much as I wanted and I don't have to like, take glucose.
Worried about taking some orange juice or something.
The way the juice is just not fun anymore.
It's so funny because I always get asked questions where people are like, oh, like when especially when it comes around birthday parties or celebrations, people are like, do you want candy? And I'm like, unless my blood sugar is low, please do not ask me, do I want candy? I promise you, candy has not been a good thing in my book. Like my hate relationship with anything sweet, unless I have to have it, it's like,
Yeah,
I don't need it.
it really just ruins things. Although sometimes I'm in a place where it's like if I'm low, that's an excuse for me to engage in
Yes.
sweet things. But then you got to chase those highs because, like,
Yes.
tricking with sugar and sugary things, you can just overdo it, and then you go from being hypo to hyper, and it's just
Yes.
too much, too much. But we haven't even gotten into my questions yet.
I can already tell it's going to be an amazing conversation. So,
And if y'all have any questions, comments, or concerns, because we were going to share some things that like type 1 diabetics might only know, feel free to just reach out to me via email or whatever. We can continue this conversation. But my first question is for you, Destiny. Can you share your journey navigating type 1 diabetes while growing up in the child welfare system? And how did those experiences shape your understanding of health and self-care?
okay, oh my God. So I've been in the foster care system for a very, very long time. I want to say like a year and some change after I got diagnosed with diabetes was when I went into the child welfare system. I went into foster care around like 4 or 5 years old, got diagnosed when I was 2. So like 3 years. I had got taken away from my mother because of medical neglect, they said. But that was what the case was for. They said that my blood sugars, like around that time, they kept misdiagnosing me with different things and they were testing out different medicines on me. And when you're younger with diabetes, that's another traumatic thing as well, because it's like you're young, your body is growing, and it's like you're also trying to figure out what works for this kid. And you know what happened when you get older. So I'm sure around the age that you got it, you experienced that as well. But I had to experience that twice, when I was younger as a kid and when I was older as well. But I got taken away from medical neglect. At the time when I was younger, I had trouble with lows. I was having lows, and at the time they had diagnosed me with epilepsy as well, which indeed it was not epilepsy. I had a lot of diabetic seizures. My blood sugar, most of the time it happened when I was sleeping, and I would have a seizure when I was sleeping, and I would wake up in the hospital. So this was something like, and I'm not saying this was like a every now and then type of thing. This was like a every night type of thing. I would have a seizure, even in the hospitals, I would have seizures in my sleep. And I think they were just trying to figure out what was the right levels, because they was like, why is this girl's blood sugar keep dropping low? But then, you know, I guess they were saying like, okay, at some points there would be times when I was at the hospital that I wouldn't have it, but then when I would go home, I would always have it. So they'd be like, okay, what are you doing at home? Like, what is mom doing? You know? So it was always that thing. I got into the foster care system, and I would say that was something that was a lot for me as well, because I'm from Philly. I'm from West Philly. So I had been moved to Delaware. I was in a home for Delaware. I had only lived there for like 2 weeks, which when you're a kid and you're in foster care, when you're younger and you know your family, and then you go with somebody else, it's like,
it's so weird. It's
like,
so weird.
You know, babies, they cry all the time. And so I'm younger, but I'm just like, I didn't like it, because I'm like, you know, at home, I have my Doris dollhouse. I my shows, like people knew me, and I'm just like, okay, now I'm with these other people, and they don't got anything that I like. This house is like, and so I'm just like, okay. And then I'm like, I'm in Delaware, so I'm far away. I don't go to my daycare anymore with all of my friends. Now I'm at this different school. I'm with these people that I don't know. I kept getting sick. My blood sugar still going crazy, still having seizures, all of that, constantly in the hospital. It got to a point where after the 2 weeks, the family was just like, we don't want this girl no more. We don't want this girl. And my mom is an Aries, fire sign. A lot. But I will say I'm an Aries as well.
Okay. I think my moon is like Aries or something. So I understand.
That is fire sign. If you know anything about them, they are a lot to deal with. And when it comes to their emotions and them being passionate about things, they are real, like stern, like F you, like I don't care. I'm gonna say you can't silence. So my mom was so, you know, because of like my age and stuff like that, like, and my mom was still on my paperwork for like, you know, if anything ever happened and she was the call, the time I was with these foster parents and I was going to the hospital, they calling her like, hey, your child's in the hospital. Just wanted to let you know. So next thing you know, who's pulling up to the hospital?
I mean, your mom, as she should, like that. So wait a minute. They took you from your mom because of medical neglect. And I'm assuming they didn't put you into a medically fragile foster home, or
they did put me in one, but I guess they weren't. I'm not going to say that. I guess I wouldn't necessarily say it wasn't who was taking care of me. It was just my body still trying to figure out, or, you know, my body still adjusting to diabetes. Well, I guess I was 3 years into diabetes. They were still trying to figure out what my levels and stuff were, you know?
That stage of development, your body is fluctuating so much. The same thing happens when you're a teenager, and it actually happens throughout your 20s. So it's really, really hard to stabilize blood sugars. And especially gender plays a really big role, right? I mean, I'm open to all kind of gender identities. We love all of y'all. But like male versus female bodies experience that growth hormone chart way differently as well. And so when you talked about that, that's really hard. But I feel like they should have given you back to your mom, because the same thing was happening with that family.
Your mom. So that was my mom's argument. She'll curse out the foster parent, like, I don't give a F, you not better than me. She curses out social workers, like, I don't care. No way, you're taking away from me, but you putting her with somebody else and they're having the same issues. And so, you know, my mom was very passionate about that, which I definitely understand, because I would be the same way as well. I just wouldn't be as chaotic. My mom's the type, like, she'll come up, she want to yell at everybody, curse everybody out. I don't give a F, like, and I'm just like, oh, God, girl,
Mama,
have some decorum, please. Please have some decorum. So fast forward, I had experienced the issue that I had with that foster parent at least 3-4 more times throughout that, which also included me changing schools and different things like that. And then, you know, at one point I had a foster parent who was older, to say I'm super scared of. And I don't know if it was Toy Story or what, but I am so scared of old dolls. They scare the crap all these old dolls in her house. And oh my God, I used to cry every night because she had them in my bedroom. And I was just so scared. I couldn't sleep, nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I just keep thinking about how you didn't need to be taken from your mom. Like, first and foremost. Like, that is.
Yeah, it was a lot. So finally, I would say when I got to fourth grade, I finally got back to her. So let's see. I left her when I was in pre-K, going into kindergarten. I got back with her fourth grade. So this was a long, like, a long time. Finally went back to her. At this point, I'm not fully over controlling my diabetes, but throughout my experience, I have learned how to take my own blood sugars. I know how to take my own insulin. I know how to do the counting. I've been through so many hospitalizations where I've learned to take control with adult supervision, but I'm like, okay, I know how to do some things on my own that it's like, oh, why didn't she get her insulin? Well, Destiny could take her insulin by herself. She didn't need a parent to do it, you know? Rather than the age that I had originally got diagnosed with diabetes, I didn't know how to do anything by myself. So when I did get back with her, I had recognized my mom's anger had got to another level when I was gone because my other siblings were still with her, but it became like an abusive thing. Like it wasn't like it had got too far. Like my mom was super abusive, being real comfortable, putting her hands on people and just taking her anger out. Like, oh, I had a rough day at work. Now I'm about to beat the crap out of all of y'all because y'all just pissed me off.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, I have a thing where, you know, my other siblings, they were used to it, I guess. But for me, because I had been with so many different other families where no one was putting their hands on me, when I came back to somebody putting their hands on me and being extra and being loud and yelling at me, and this is like a constant thing, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna speak up too.
Right.
Y'all can be okay with that. I'm not okay with it, and I don't care. Like I'm like, there's no way. So and again, like I said, my mom's an Aries, but I am too. So we gonna fight fire. What's up? Like I'm with it. I'm with it. We experienced a lot of back and forth. There were times where we were fighting each other, but I never thought like at certain points, like I was trying to ignore it, you know? At a certain point, I'm just like, I was better off at the homes that I was at, even though they weren't family, than I am here because you think they just like, at this point, we're not even talking about medical neglect anymore because I can control my own diabetes, but now we're talking about some other issues, you know? And so she was getting real comfortable putting the hands on, but then she did it to all of us and it was constant like bruises on us. And I know at certain points she kept doing this thing where she was putting her hands on us and leaving marks on us. But then she would be like, oh, y'all can't go to school until it heals or goes away. So nobody can see. And so I'll be missing school and stuff at certain points. It was just becoming a little too much. She'd be leaving the house. I don't know what was going on, but I just knew, you know, I was the oldest. So I was like, I'm not dealing with this. Like, I'm not like, at this point, I went back to her in fourth grade, but I would threaten her and I would be like, you know what? I was better off being a foster care. Like, I really want to go back. And she'd be like, okay, then call him. I don't give a F. Call him. Go back. I don't care. And I'd be like, oh, you don't care. But if I was, you'd be the first one up at the hospital tripping, trying to fight so that nobody makes it seem like you did anything wrong. Okay. Right. So we constantly got into that. I would always just say that just to see if she was going to calm down if I threatened to, you know, call. But then she just never did. It kept going. So then I did. Well, actually, I didn't call. I think I had told like my counselor because it was always this thing where, you know, again, like I said, she would leave marks and she'd be like, oh, don't go to school. So clearly there was something that was being hidden. I wouldn't say anything because I didn't want to get in trouble if I told. But then when it got to the point where she was like, oh, I don't care. And she kept doing it. I'm just like, girl, like, you tripping, like you going too far, you know? So I did. I obviously told, but there were certain people that I was okay with telling, and I had to make sure that if I told anybody that they would back me up. Because what I would hate is if they called like CPS or anybody on me, I get taken away, and it's like, okay, you could go with them. Like, no, you still got to make sure you support me along the journey to make sure that the people who were there from the beginning are going to defend me in the end, you know, because you knew what was going on off the rip, you know? So I did that. Then, you know, they came out for investigations. My mom, she would lie. She'd be like, well, I put my hands on them. Because, you know, physical discipline is not illegal. It's only illegal if you leave marks and different things like that. My mom knew the law and stuff. So she was just like, oh, she was like, I just beat them, but I didn't leave a mark. Girl, I had like scars up and down here on my hands, on my wrists, like everywhere. Like it got to where they even took pictures. But I know my social worker that I had, I did not like this lady that came out to investigate. She made me go in the house and then she talked to my mom outside. They were out there talking for like 30, 45 minutes. I don't know what they were talking about. Then she made me come out. She was like, you need to be supportive of your mom. And I was just like,
what? This whole time, are your siblings still with your mom? Like they're never removed from you? That's so weird. Like, especially the context of everything.
Yes. So cool that, you know, I'm like, all right, cool. Watch this. Cause I'm like, I'm not even about to make it. I'm not going to make myself come off like I'm the resistant like child or the bad child that just wants to fight. Cause there are kids that are like that. And I'm like, I already know how that ends out, but I'm like, I know how to play the game. So I'm like, we're going to play it. You know, if you don't want to hear me, I'm going to put you in a position where you have to hear me. And you're not going to be the only person I'm telling my story to. Right. I'll help my mom. Cool. She leaves. This is my last day with me living with my mom. My mom calls all of my siblings down to the living room, and she's like, "Do y'all not like living here?" And everybody said, "No, we don't like living here."
How many of there were you?
My mom has 5 kids.
5 kids. Okay. And you're the
Yes.
oldest of 5? Okay.
She didn't know really how to react or whatever. And then like I was like, okay, cool. Everybody just proved me right. Like I'm not the one that's trying to start the problem. Yes, I'm the more vocal one. They're more quiet, but they said they don't like living here, you know? But I was comfortable with getting up, leaving. My only fear was I didn't want to leave, and then I left them in the situation.
Yeah, I understand that.
But they were scared to leave. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. Harriet Tubman ain't wait for nobody to get confident, then leave. You either get ready or get ready to go, or you going to keep yourself in a situation. I'm not ready. I don't have time for this. Like, and like, I was just like, I don't. So I was like, you get ready to go, or y'all going to stay. They chose to stay, and they wasn't ready to go when I was ready to go. I had planned my escape and everything. I packed my stuff. I didn't take much, but I was like, this is going to do me over. And I'm going to go somewhere where I'm always going to be in a place where I have the ability to wash clothes or whatever. That's going to lead me over to the next, even if I have to couch hop. I went to my aunt's house, was there for 3-4 days, and I always kept my school up to date, and my school always knew what was going on. At certain points, I know at one point my mom had came into the school while I was at recess out in the schoolyard so she could see me through the gate and stuff like that. So my school had like helped me like plan to hide and all that stuff. Like me and my school, we was locked in. We was
I'm like,
they was like, your mom is here. They was like, do you want to leave? And I was like, do you want to stay or you want to leave? And I was like, I'm staying. I was like, I'm not going back where I was like, I've been left. And it's like, okay, cool. They was like, well, you're out. And like literally out where the recess thing is, you can literally see the main office. Like from the main office, they can see who's out at recess. So they was like, you need to go back in the building. They was like, because she can see you. They was like, we're going to need to hide you and tell her that you did not come to school today. So I was like, okay, cool. Playing my hideout and everything. Like I really appreciate them for this because they really like me and them was really locked in. Like,
I'm really, I don't know if you know, I used to be a teacher, so I'm kind of shocked to hear this. Like,
I don't know if this is illegal, and I hope I'm not getting nobody in trouble, but I really appreciate them.
You don't know any names, honey. You didn't say your school, you didn't say their name. We don't know. We don't know what you're talking about. We just telling a story, okay? This is for entertainment purposes only.
Yes. Yes, so I really appreciate them for that. So, you know, they helped me. Cool. I had always kept in touch with my grandma because around the time my grandma would like give me money and stuff. She'd be like, hey, just want to make sure you're okay. She knew. The thing is, people in my family, they knew the abuse was going on. But anytime they said to my mom was always this big, don't tell me how to raise my kids. Like, these are my kids. You don't tell me what to do. And so nobody ever wanted to help because it was like, I don't got time for her. She be tripping, da-da-da. So like they didn't ever want to get too involved. But my thing is when you see something that's too bad, you got to pick and choose your battles. You feel me? Like there are certain things that I don't care if it's too bad. I'm still going to intervene because it's horrible. Like this is against the law, you know?
And you're a baby. All children deserve something like that.
I told my grandma I had left and I had went to my aunt's house. My aunt did not rat me out. She let me hide and sleep at her house and everything whatsoever. But, you know, I never told any, well, I told my counselor stuff, but nobody else like knew, you know, I told my grandma because my grandma was like, okay, where you at? Like your mom's looking for you. And she's like, you know, come by so I can give you money for food, da-da-da. And so I guess she told my mom where I was at. Let's see, a day or two later, cops come by my aunt's house and they're like, oh, this is like kidnapping or whatsoever because you don't have permission from her legal guardian to have her. So I get out. And one thing about it is I've always been like a talker. I know how to talk my way into things. So like, I'm sorry, I've worked in sales. I was made for it.
It's a good fit.
Yes. I think at that point, sales was my career because I had the skills before I even went into it. I spoke to those cops and oh yeah, they was like, okay, you know, they knew how to talk to me. And I think at a certain age, like because of my experience being in the foster care system, being diabetic, having to speak to doctors and so many people, it required me to mature at a certain age. You know, I have to do things for myself. My social worker had always told me, she was like, you're not the other kids on the block. She was like, you got to grow up, eat faster than these other kids. And like, I never knew what she meant by that because I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like 12, 13 years old. What do you mean grow up? I can't grow up like them. We just playing, we cool. And she like, no, y'all don't live the same life. And I'm just like, oh my God. So that was when it kind of clicked in reality for me. And I'm like, okay, girl, grow up. Be mature. Like you, like there's things you got to handle and you can't look at yourself like you're a child anymore, you know? Social worker finally came by. And they were like, okay, you can't stay here because we did not run your aunt's like clearances and all that. So like we still have to legally approve you. So they're like, you can't stay here. I had been moving around and they had put me in a youth shelter. And the youth shelter found out my aunt didn't get approved for me to stay. So I stayed in a youth shelter and I had lived in a youth shelter all throughout high school for all 4 years. This shelter was supposed to be a 30-day shelter. I stayed there for 4 years, longer than I was supposed to.
Wow. What was that like? Was it a positive, negative, neutral experience?
It was a learning experience for me. And I would say that I learned things that a lot of people are just now my age learning in life that I learned because I had those early experiences.
Right.
So I lived in the rooms, they fit up to 4 people. The room that I lived in, all you had was a bed, like a cot, like bed. You had a closet. Like you had to put the lock on it and you had to unlock it with a key. It taught me also how to deal with, we didn't have doors in the rooms either. So it taught me about privacy and how to demand and also advocate for myself. Also, there were people as well who were trans that like were guys turned into girls that were now classified as girls. Right. So now I'm sleeping in a room with a trans person, and it was just like a lot of things that taught me to be open-minded and to learn from different people's experiences. I just
Philadelphia too.
Yes, in Philadelphia.
Okay. So you got to stay in Philadelphia County.
Yes, I got to stay in Philadelphia, and actually, like, it was a bus ride away from my school. At that point, the shelter there was a boys' side and there was a girls' side. So the girls and the boys didn't sleep on the same side. Right. I mean, I think it could hold 24 people, 12 on the girls, 12 on the boys' side. I was the only one who constantly went to school. There were people going in and out of school, people who weren't registered for school, because they didn't have their documents. I was the only person that consistently got up. Like, they knew, get me up because I'm going to school. Right. I don't care. And I made sure that no matter what, that I was always involved in extracurricular activities. I was making my money. I was doing something to provide for myself. So that also got me my leeway to kind of like advocate and get what I wanted while I was in the shelter as well. I knew how to make my connections. Like, okay, if I go to school, I'm doing the right things. I'm advocating. I'm doing community service. Now I'm in the news and I'm doing all of these great things. And honorable, good grades, perfect attendance, all this type of stuff. If I ask for something, you're going to give it to me because that's not that's not the average thing that's happening for all these kids in here. So you want to, award good behavior. That's to say, because of the fact that I've lived in that shelter for 4 years, those people that worked in the shelter, they're like my family, the director who used to work there, like these are like my family turned mentors, like still to this day, they keep in contact. They check with me like at least like once every other week, or in some of them almost every week, they follow me on social media. We're really locked in, Yeah, I was able, I worked my behind off. I think that was my biggest thing. I was like, okay, I'm underage. I got to go through an adult or go through a social worker to be able to get what I want. If I want to go on a school trip, I got to get things signed off, or there's always something I have to go through. I could not wait to turn 18 because I was like, I don't need nobody permission to do nothing. Like, I don't care. I was like, I got this. I know what I'm doing. I am thankful for that experience because of the fact that like I wasn't one of those kids who ran through the streets, and I had people in my support system who would always keep me grounded and keep me pushing. And, they will always advocate for me to get opportunities and things like that. My work spoke for itself, but then I had somebody behind me saying, not only is this girl doing amazing things, but she's also in foster care. So imagine that, like, that's not common, So I really appreciated, people advocating for me, because I never wanted to put it out there that I was in foster care. Most of my friends or, unless you were my best friend, nobody knew that I was in foster care until I got accepted into college and I had to fundraise money. I had actually got accepted into 56 colleges, which now I attend Spelman College. Yeah. And I was fundraising money to go to school. And I was like, okay. And everybody was like, okay, how you going for Spelman? How you going for Spelman? And I was like, oh, I'm going to share my story. Like, because if people around the world were to know what I was going through, you invest in it too. I share my story. I shared, okay, foster care, all these people, my stories went viral. People were, reaching out to me. And a lot of my friends and people that I went to school with, they were like, I never knew you were in foster care. It was like, I never knew that. And I was like, one thing about me is I preach this a lot. You don't have to look like what you're going through. You don't you can go through something, but you don't have to look like it. Like, I don't even know if you knew this today, but listen, I had the most horrible week today. My car set on fire on Thursday on the highway. I'm sure you did not expect me to be smiling. Girl, I had the worst week ever.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, of course. I had the worst week. My car literally blew in flames on the highway.
I'm glad you're safe.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing.
Absolutely. And I think that pushes me to continue showing up because I always tell myself, okay, if God put me in these crazy situations and he gave me another chance, why would I sit back and not pour my gifts out into the world, So that's always something that I'm really big about. And I'm just like, continue showing up. No matter what life throws at you, that's just the devil trying to stop you. Keep going. Tell them that you're unstoppable, Yeah, here I am. Attended Spelman College. I got the money to go to college. In my last year, I did have to recently take a break because I'd experienced DKA back in November and I got really sick when I was in school and I was in a coma for like a week and a half. So when I got out, I was trying to make up my schoolwork and stuff. And my dean was, girl, are you crazy? Go home and please take your rest and yourself together. So they medically withdrew me and I will not be returning back to school until August. I'm now focusing on my health. While I was in school, I was working. I was a nanny. Now I'm back home and I'm a full-time nanny now. I work in childcare and I'm just continuing to share my gifts and share my stories with the world. I'll be going back to school next year in August, and I'll be graduating.
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, consider me an ally in your collegiate plans because if you need help with papers, I can help you out. I got you.
Okay. Writing papers?
Yeah.
Well, actually, let me know if you need help. I'm actually a writing minor, and that's my side hustle. I write papers.
I need you to write for us. I need you to write for Youth Voices Rising, but we'll talk offline about that.
I got you.
I resonate so much with just so many different parts of it, but most importantly, it's your like optimism and your brightness. Because when I was younger, when I was around your age, not that I'm like 800 years older than you, but I just remember being young and being excited about life and being optimistic about life. And I think I was still very new to type 1 diabetes when you said you're 21, right?
Yes.
So I would have been like 5 years in at that point. And that's around the time that I just found the type 1 diabetes community. And it really just it made it easier for me to deal with the illness. It normalized it for me. It gave me people to like bounce experiences off of. It opened me up to more resources. So your brightness just feels very like igniting in a really beautiful, positive way. So just thank you for that. And really consider me an ally because I know how not only it is to live with type 1 diabetes, but to also have that child welfare experience. And when I was in high school, people also were so shocked to hear that I was a foster kid. And I'm like, what did you expect me to look like?
What does that look like?
What did it look like?
Did you expect me to show up hair undone looking bummy?
Right. Like, was I supposed to be like in dirty clothes and like get D's and not doing anything? Like,
right.
So clearly people have these conceptions or misconceptions about what it means to have these identities, but then also the intersectionality of it. And you mentioned something, and I often wonder how people who have lived child welfare experience, who have type 1 diabetes or other chronic illnesses that require like supplies and medications and things. Like, I don't know how people can live a homeless lifestyle or just be on the run constantly and be able to like take care of themselves because it's already enough when you have a stable home, like let alone being unhoused and not being certain of where you're going to sleep or I don't know how you store your insulin if you need it. I don't know how you get supplies or have like, consistent access to pharmacies and things. And so my heart goes out to kids who are in child welfare who also have type 1 diabetes and any other chronic illness because I just can't even. Okay, let me ask my next question though. You shared a lot with us. How has living with type 1 diabetes influenced your approach to addressing the trauma associated with foster care, particularly as a Black woman? And you're still really young. So I know this might not be like fully fleshed out for you, but.
Yes. Okay. How has my experience living with type 1 diabetes connected with the approach of living in foster care?
Yeah, the trauma of foster care.
Wow. Honestly, I will say my experience with diabetes and in foster care, one, I would say, honestly, it's still a learning experience for me, even still to this day. I did not know. And recently, I just learned with my most recent hospitalization and being in a coma and things like that, I didn't know that stress played a major part into diabetes. When I was growing up, doctors always said, like, okay, how's your stress going? Has it impacted your diabetes? And I'm like, no, my sugars are fine. I take my insulin. I'm good. Like, I'm just always on the run. And that's something that's always been happening for me. Like, I've always just constantly been on the run, that I never had the ability to pay attention to how life events can impact your diabetes. It wasn't until I got to college and, whoo, college is stressful.
Oh.
Okay. It is stressful.
Moment of silence. I don't know how I graduated. Let me tell you guys.
Girl, it wasn't until that it was like, okay, when I'm stressed out, I recognize that my blood sugars go crazy and now my body is resistant. But I will also say that as you get older, I will say my body gets a little more sensitive when it comes to reactions with diabetes. I would say when I was younger, I could last 12 hours with a blood sugar reading over 600 and be completely fine once my insulin finally kicks in. Now, my blood sugar read high for 2 hours, and I feel like I need life support. Like,
girl, please just wait till you get 30, honey, because I'm telling you. Look, I was low the other day in the morning, right? And it was not even that long, but I have been dropping really fast, and then it's been taking a long time to go up because my sensitivity is like increasing, which is a good thing, but it's difficult. Let me tell you how I was tired the whole day.
Really?
The whole day. And it wasn't even that. I was like 60 something. And I was like, I can't go on. Like, yeah, like there's just so much I want to tell you because I remember at your age, I'm in Pittsburgh, which is same state, Pennsylvania, right? And the doctors here are really awesome, but they're not necessarily the most culturally competent. And most, if not all of my endocrinologists here have been white. My current doctor, I believe, is Asian, but up until that point, they were all white. And they would be like, well, why are you stressed out? Like, maybe I'm
Right.
a Black person in college with foster care experience and no support. Like, it's just a little bit stressful. Be like, well, just stop stressing. And I'm like, oh my God.
Like, what?
Like, what are you talking about? But then the other
What?
part of that, when you're at the age that you're at, you're still going through these really steep spikes and hormonal shifts and changes because your body is actually rapidly changing at this age. And I didn't know this until
Tell me about
basically
it.
right. I didn't know this until I was 26 or 27. I kid you not. I was like, why didn't no one tell me this? My current doctor, he told me, I love him so much. Dr. Wall, he really be knowing, he really be researching and telling me all this stuff. But he was like, you're still at this age of development physically where your blood sugars are going to be a little bit more difficult to manage for a few more years. Like it tapers off to when you get to your late 20s and into your 30s, which is where I am now. But it's still that like when you go back to being a teenager, when you go back to being a toddler, those really big shifts and changes and hormonal shifts and changes. It's hard. And then as Black women, as Black people, I feel like our insulin resistance is just a little bit more intense than like our white peers.
Girl, please tell me about it. Like, I feel like every little thing impacts and makes me have insulin resistance. So also another experience that I must share with you that I feel like was a really big, like, I'm not gonna say milestone because I don't look at it as something that I applaud. If anything, I feel like it was a point where I had to relearn myself. When I got to college, I had experienced a lot of insulin resistance. I was constantly ordering out food and eating bready things, but like I kept always experiencing these really, really high blood sugars. But like when I didn't eat, my sugars were fine. Like I was really managing it, but it was like every time I ate, I kept like my blood sugars would go crazy. And I was like, I don't understand. I'm taking my insulin. I'm doing
Right.
everything to do. I know my body. I'm like, what is happening? It happens when I eat. And specifically, it happened when I ate things like sandwiches, pizza, or pastas and things like that.
Right.
I found out I had freaking celiac and I'm allergic to gluten.
Dang. But that happens a lot
When
with
I
type
got
1
to
diabetics.
college.
That happens a lot. And that really sucks. I'm sorry, girl. I don't have that.
Thank God. I feel like I have to
But
look up every time I go out to eat. I'm a major foodie.
yeah.
Again, I content create. I love doing
Mhm.
food tours and I love just doing reviews in places. But
Yeah.
every time I go somewhere, my friends are like, oh, let's go try this place. Let's go do a review. And I'm like, give me the menu first. Cause no point in me even freaking showing up if there's nothing there I can eat. And my
Mhm.
always like, yeah, all you can eat is salad. I'm just like,
And I'm a vegan, so I get it because there's, especially in Pittsburgh, where there's so much pasta, so much like Italian food, so many carby
well, the thing is,
diets and
I love
things.
pasta. I love lasagna, everything. I can only go to certain places to get it because I have to make sure the kitchen is gluten friendly and there's
Yeah.
no cross contamination. That's one of my biggest things as well. My long term goal is to be a cook. And
Mhm.
that's what I do right now. I love cooking, but I'm very careful in the kitchen. I don't know what y'all doing in the kitchen. I can't see y'all. I'm not allowed to be in there.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't play with my food.
I hate that for you because
Girl.
food already feel well. I look at food as medicine. Ever since I was diagnosed, food has just felt like medicine for me. So it kind of took the joy out of food for me. But it
Yeah, that
also really
when I was
sucks.
younger. That's why I don't eat snacks. People be like, "Oh, do you want snacks?" I'm like, "Just give me a meal. I don't want a snack unless my blood sugar is low. I'll do a snack to hold me over." I have a love-hate relationship with food. Like, I don't eat 3 meals a day. I'll eat when I need to eat, but I'll make sure that I eat that one meal that can last me over. You know, so whether it's breakfast, lunch, dinner. If I eat dinner, I'm probably not going to eat breakfast or lunch per se. I ate
Mhm.
lunch today. I don't think I'll eat dinner. I might. It depends because I think my best friend want to go out because I do need a brain refresh this weekend. But you know, I might need
Considering
to
everything.
before I have my lemon drops. But I'm just like, if it wasn't for that, I would be cool for the rest of the
Yeah.
day. But my relationship has really been abused with food just because of the fact that diabetes, like, it's put me in positions where my sugar has been low or been high for a long time, and I either
Yeah.
want to eat, but I was told I wasn't allowed to eat because I had to wait for my sugar to go down, or I was already full, but then I was forced to take in more sugar because my sugar needs to go up. And it was like, girl, you need the sugar, or what's going to happen to you? So now I'm just like, unless I need it, I'll do it for survival, but I don't like to really do it for enjoyment. I love feeding other people though. I love cooking. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. I really lean more towards like, intuitive eating right now and letting my body guide me when I need to eat. And I do try to eat balanced. I try to eat more consistently because my body does thrive in that capacity. But sometimes I get tired of eating too. And then don't let it be a really resistant low. And you just start
Yes.
scarfing down stuff like that
I
is so
know. Oh my God.
worse. And my threshold for feeling low has like really decreased. My sensitivity is crazy right now. So I've been rocking out in the 50s and 60s and sometimes the 40s for like an
Really?
hour, 90 minutes. And that's like with treating. And
Continue taking in stuff and it wouldn't go anywhere?
it just takes such a long time for my body to react to the sugar now. And I'll take like 24, sometimes 48 at a time, like to treat that stuff. And it just takes a really, really long time.
That's
And I'm
crazy.
not gonna lie.
That,
Sometimes I'm just like, I'm going to bed. Like it'll be in the middle of the night. I'm like,
experienced that, and honestly, I hate that. So I know that pain. Trust me, I hear you and I feel you, sister.
It's
Like I really do.
exhausting.
It's annoying.
It's so annoying. And that's that powerlessness that I feel. That's why this is literally the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I try to tell people having type 1 diabetes is like having an infant baby that never grows up because it just always wakes you up. It just always needs something.
Yes.
It's always demanding
Yes.
and it's expensive.
I tell people all the time, this is not cheap at all. And I'm like, you think it's just like, aside from like insulin costs and things like that, even the foods and the things that you need, like for me, I'm like, okay, I always have to make sure I keep a gallon of orange juice in the fridge. I literally just got a gallon of orange juice last week. Why am I have this much left? And I'm like, back to the freaking store again. Like, it don't make no goddamn sense. It's annoying. Like, yo,
I feel like a slave to it. I don't know if you ever, I feel like it's a little bitch. Like, you know, I'm like, why are you playing me like this?
Yes,
like, you don't drink that juice. And like, I don't want. And I wear retainers. So anytime my blood sugar goes low overnight, I'm like, damn it. Why? I don't even brush my teeth again.
I hear you. And I would even say, like, yesterday, like, I was just chilling in my room. My mom came in and she was just like, my next com's going off. Because it got to the point where my thing goes off so much. I'm just like, silence this crap. Like, I don't want to hear it. And honestly, to answer your question, when you say like people not understanding you or like the intersection of like trauma and like, or just not feeling heard, like, especially being a Black woman, I will also say, I had got diagnosed when I was, I was in my sophomore, junior year of high school. I'm like, what? 16, 17 years old, I got diagnosed with PCOS. This was yesterday. And I thank God for me being very in tune with my body that I recognized something. I was like, okay, this is really weird. All of my friends have cycles. Why am I the only one? I remember I used to study the heck. I was prepared to have my first period and everything. I was ready. I was like, this is womanhood. I done got my test. I went to the store, measured myself for bras. I done bought my first bra. Like, I'm like, I haven't had a cycle. This is weird. All my friends in the had it, and they're like, girl, you still ain't get it. And I'm like, no. I remember I was reading books about it, and they will always say, you know, your body is on its own timing. But they had it for 3 years. How much longer I gotta wait? Why? You don't want this? And I'm just like, no, but why don't I have it? Like, I don't know if I feel like it was something that just made me more of like a woman or something. I'm just like, why don't I have it? I went to my doctors and I was like, I don't get bleeding, but I get cramping and my blood sugars go off the roof, but there's no bleeding. I'm like, what does that mean? Why is this happening? And my body would become insulin resistant every time.
So it was like on a cycle, like a 28-day cycle. But
it didn't happen every month. It would happen once every 3 months. And like finally got some testing and they were like, oh, your hormonal levels are off. You have PCOS. And they were trying to get me to take like these birth controls to get me to like, you know, this is one thing where this is my first time because my doctors that I was going to, I remained consistent with them. When I first got diagnosed with diabetes, I was always going to Children's Hospital. And around this time that I got diagnosed with PCOS, remember that time I told you when I had left my mom's house and I was like, I went to my aunt and everything. I always remained consistent about going to school and my health. Like I did not play about going to my doctor's appointments and I did not play about being at school and being on time. So I always went. I was so close to my doctors. And again, I hope I'm not getting anybody in trouble. But me and my doctors, we had a major conversation and they did something. I don't know who they reached out to, but they made sure they fought for me. And they got some like approval through security that said Destiny does not need to come with an adult. She can come by herself. As long as she shows up to her appointments, we spoke to somebody, we got approval. We just want to make sure this girl is safe and she's healthy. And her for me is consistent. Oh my God, I'll forever thank my doctors for that because if I had to go through DHS or have an adult to take me, I probably would not be.
It takes forever. And that's why I always say I'm so grateful that I was 16 when I was diagnosed because I just feel like the people that I was with, firstly, I probably would have been separated from my little sister, which would have also been detrimental for me. But I just don't think they would have been able to be on top of it. It is a lot to manage. It's a lot to deal with. And it's a very expensive thing. I mean, when you're in foster care, they typically pay for 100% of your medical needs and things. But also when you age out, you don't get that same support. So there's that fear to it, which is really, really difficult. And also just you're dealing with people who have different levels of intelligence around all of the components of type 1 diabetes. It involves a lot of common sense, a lot of body knowledge, a lot of chemistry, a lot of math, and not just division and subtraction, but multiplication. And you got to think about the timing of everything. Your brain is just constantly on when it comes to this disease. And I just feel like there was already so much for me to deal with. I only had, because I aged out. So I had type 1 diabetes while I was in foster care for about 5 years or so.
Really?
Yeah. So I got to have enough time where I had that stable like health insurance, right? But not too much to where I probably would have got messed up somewhere neglected and abandoned somewhere along the way. Yeah, it was, oh Lord, so much. And also, I never need to talk about that or vent about that because, like, I am a little bit older than you. So I've experienced some of the things that you're either doing now or will do soon. I would love to share with you if you're ever just wondering what that looks like. But PCOS is a really difficult thing to have.
It
And
is. And even so to this day, I struggle with it. Like right now, I would definitely say my doctors at some point put me through this experiment and trying different types of birth controls on me. I'm on a birth control now, which I think I want to say this is the implant or something.
oh, the
Um,
next one on?
Yes,
The
yes, next one on.
Okay,
That's what it's
yeah.
called. Yes. I just got that over the summer after being on the IUD. The IUD did not work for me. It actually, I had to get it taken out literally less than a month of me having it because it had actually, I was having really like, I know it's painful when you first get it in, but they say like after a couple of days, like it shouldn't be
To
painful.
go away.
I was experiencing pain for a whole month. I went to my doctor. My doctor had viewed me and they were like, it's fine. Like, I guess they just did a visual view. I
Yeah.
said, it's not fine. I know my body. Please don't tell me what's fine because I'm in
Advocating.
pain and you said it shouldn't last as long. So why am I feeling this unless there's another problem? Okay, do an ultrasound so we can do it. They did an ultrasound and I literally, they were like, oh, I guess I saw something on the nurse's face and she was just like, and I'm just sitting here like, what the hell? Like, what you see on that ultrasound? Like, please don't play with me. I get a call 10 minutes and like, please don't play with me. I get a call 10 minutes after leaving, and they were like, we need you to come back immediately because you have to get this taken out. I guess the pointy part of the IUD got stuck in my uterus. And they were like, you need to get this taken out immediately.
Oh my
And I
God.
was like,
Are you okay?
yeah, I am. It was the most painful thing ever. That's something that I would say is very painful.
That's so
They asked me that I would ever want to try it again, but them use an ultrasound so they can watch it as it goes in to make sure the placement is correct. I said, I'm not playing. I'm not nobody's lab rat. And I'm sorry, but like that hurt. And I'm not just hurting for fun,
No, what's understood doesn't need to be explained. I tried to get, I don't think it was like a 10 or 12-year option. And this lady like tinkered around for like all this time. She couldn't get it in because I have a tilted pelvis. But she tried for like 15, 20 minutes. No sedation, no nothing, because they just shoving stuff in us and not giving us any pain medicine. I was like, this is the worst pain I've ever felt in my entire life. I don't know how to describe it because I've never felt anything like this.
Yeah.
And all of that for her to not be able to get it in. I will tell you, I had a really positive experience with Nexplanon. So I don't have PCOS or anything. I was just using it, but I had a really positive.
I'm on it. My cycle is on now. It's been on for like a week now. And my blood sugars have been through the roof. Like, they're crazy. Yeah. It's either super high and then I'm taking medicine. My blood sugar's not going down. So then I'm giving more medicine. I guess my body is insulin stacking. Yeah. And then when it does process, my blood sugar just drops super low. And now I need a bunch of sugar to bring it up. And so like, I really hate it. Like I have a love-hate relationship because I'm just like, okay, let me make sure my body is still going through its feminine process in regards of doing the things that it needs to do. But I'm just like, I also hate it where it impacts me on a different level with diabetes. And I'm just learning my body, honestly. There's been times that I've definitely had to argue with doctors and I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, there's no way. Like, you're not telling me, like, you're saying what works for most people, but also make sure that you understand me, and what works for my lifestyle. And then I don't have time to be playing games on a medical level, because if something goes wrong, then I know that anything that happens to me impacts my diabetes. So now the situation is not just a situation, is 10 times worse because of the fact of the impact it's going to do on my diabetes. So I've definitely had that. And I feel like I've had to advocate for myself a lot more, especially being a Black woman with diabetes. Since I've become 18, I've aged out of things like Children's Hospital and stuff like that. And adults are just like, oh, you'll be fine. And I'm like, no, it's not fine. And I'm sorry, but like, I'm not even going to allow you to say it. And if you don't understand, give me somebody else who will.
I was allowed to stay with my pediatric endocrinologist until I was like 21. It's difficult though. It's difficult transitioning to a different type of care too, because it is a different type of care. And it's just really difficult. Like life with type 1 diabetes, it is not for the faint of heart. And to have also the other lived experiences that we have of being Black women, of being in Pennsylvania.
There were often times that I wasn't just explaining myself to doctors, but then I had to follow up and explain things to social workers because the social workers were technically considered like my legal guardian or DHS. They were like, okay, like, what's going on? Why are your blood sugars high? Are you not taking your medicine? Like, you're not taking care of yourself. So no, we're not going to sign a permission slip because you're not doing what you're supposed to do.
And they just don't understand.
But you don't understand because you don't have diabetes. There was a lot of times where I guess I would be considered resistant. At certain points, certain social workers had different experiences with me. Some people understood me and a lot of people misunderstood me, which is okay. I was also very private when it came to my health as well. When you're in the foster care system, there's so many different social workers and people in your business. I'm just not the person that's about to sit here and lay all my health problems out on the table, and everybody in my business, now everybody know I got PCOS, and everybody know I'm not getting periods or cycles. Now everybody know that my blood sugars are through the roof, and now they think I'm not taking my insulin because that's what it sounds like, but that's not really what's happening
Not
in
the whole
my
story.
body.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm not even about to do all of this because this is none of y'all business anyway. This is my body, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I've always been very private when it came to my health.
Good for you
So,
when you're involved in child welfare, because it's such an invasive thing. Even outside of having an illness, all the physicals that you have to go through every time you change a home, all of the questions that people are constantly asking you. Some of them are trying to be preventative and screening for like if you're being abused or neglected. It's just a really intrusive process. And then all the court cases that you have to go to, all the court hearings, all the lawyers, all the people that you have to are in your business, like invasive. So good for you for maintaining those boundaries, and good for you for advocating for yourself, because it is hard. It is hard out here. I'm just going to go to my last 3 questions. And please don't let this be the last time I talk to you, because I just enjoy it. And I feel like you have so much to offer and share the world through your lived experiences. And this is just the beginning, because I don't even know you all like that yet. So we're here now. We in there. Okay. My first question, and I ask everyone who has lived experience these questions. So what changes do you hope to see in the child welfare system in your lifetime?
Honestly, I really hope that we get more workers who are more understanding and willing and doing the work to understand. You know, I think when you're dealing with people who have been through traumatic experiences, you know, trauma reflects on people differently. Me being traumatized may be super different from you being traumatized, and maybe, you know, very different from 500,000 other people, you know. But I really wish that I would see more people who are more passionate about getting to know and understand and do the work, especially when it comes to diabetes. I remember I used to have a bunch of social workers who always would want to be in my business knowing when is my next appointment and where I'm supposed to be at, but you don't show up. You don't show up. You want to get the paperwork to know what happened and what was talked about so you can put it for your notes, but you don't show up to show your work.
I must say that is really hurtful when people want to be in your business, but they don't follow through. Or when people know you, but they don't know your diabetes. It is a really hurtful, isolating thing when people ask questions and they're trying to be all in a mix and they don't know whether or not they should give you insulin.
But you're not showing up to be there. Because now we're going off he say, she say. Or were you at the appointment? Were you there? Were you there for the conversation? So I think that's one big thing that I definitely would hope to see you in child welfare and dealing with children who have type 1 diabetes, because there's a lot of things that are discussed at doctor's appointments. And the thing is, you can't help if you don't know. How can you help someone with diabetes if you don't even know what's going on? So how about you show up to those appointments and you do the education for yourself to learn how you can also help these people?
That's a really beautiful perspective, because I was thinking about how overwhelming it could be to deal with multiple youth who have multiple illnesses, but simply showing up could be a really great way to start to understand that, because diabetes is so misunderstood. There's so many different types of diabetes, firstly. And I'm sure you've experienced people mislabeling your diabetes and judging you in ways that are just inaccurate and false. People showing up could have made the difference in them understanding your highs, your lows, and whatever mental events you experience. So that is really important. And that's something we could plug for when they're training social workers. Okay. Question number 2. So overall, what advice do you have for people with the lived experience of type 1 diabetes while being in child welfare?
Learn your body. I think that's my biggest piece of advice. Learn your body. People are going to judge you for highs and lows. And at the end of the day, those are a part of the experience. Diabetes is not a perfect, you know, it's a journey. You're going to have highs, you're going to have lows. That is just bound to happen, because if you didn't, then you wouldn't have diabetes, you know. But learn your body, because there's going to be so many people that are going to try to have their input about your health, but you got to know yourself so you can be able to speak up for yourself. Again, throughout our whole conversation, we talked about me being mislabeled and people telling me, oh, you're not taking care of yourself. You're not taking care of your health whatsoever. I am doing that. And you can't tell me that I'm not, because I'm showing up and I'm taking my insulin. You just don't understand. So make sure you do that and you educate others so that they can learn. And maybe you could silence them a little bit as well. Because once you clear them and you show that you're very educated and you know your body and your health, then that's good. But then also another thing that I must say is the science is not always right. Science may say your blood sugar is low. You eat carbs, your blood sugar goes up, but you may eat carbs and your blood sugar may not go up. So science is not always right. So that's why it's important to know yourself and know your body so you can treat yourself, because you are your body's doctor. You are your expert on yourself. Okay. So I think that is important to just know yourself. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I want to add on that too. If you can find community, whether it be type 1 diabetes or another chronic illness, find a community of people who are living with that same experience. Because that will help normalize it. They have all the tips and the tricks. Oh my gosh, the group that we're in, She 1Ds and Chronically Will's podcast, we learn so much in those groups from people all different kinds of tips, who are at all stages of life, from all genders, all socioeconomic statuses. It's just a really beautiful thing to be able to normalize highs and lows and everything in between, but also to ask for advice and people give you it, and you can try, you cannot try it, but at least it's there.
Yes.
The community is a really beautiful, important thing when you have any kind of chronic illness, any kind of lived experience, but especially in the context of experience the two at the same time. So thank you so much.
Then I also want to add, for any like youth or any parents of children who have type 1 diabetes, because I was diagnosed with diabetes when I was 2 at such a young age, I definitely love Chronically Wills and the ladies group chat with all type 1 diabetics. But I actually started a little earlier with, gaining a lot of friends who had type 1 diabetes, because I attended a lot of diabetes camps through the American Diabetes Association. So when I was younger, I went to my first diabetes camp when I was 6, and I did it all the way up until I was 16. And then I became a camp counselor, and I was caring for other kids who had diabetes. But through that, I was learning that, okay, the problems that I have are not just me, it's them as well. They have it as well. And I remember I was having friends who, no matter how much insulin they take, blood sugar never went down. Weeks straight, their blood sugars were over 600, and they were around medical professionals and everything. And it was just like, okay, now when I go through these things, at least I can understand that this is not me, and this is something with our bodies. I would definitely say become around other like-minded or like-bodied people.
And also, if being in child welfare, you can get that paid for. And so that's a really beautiful thing, because that is a really expensive thing. I was able to do type 1 diabetes camp as a counselor when I was in college, because my friend at the time told me about it.
Which one did you go to?
Maryland. What is it called?
Oh, Maryland. I went to Camp Freedom, which is in Swanksville, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay, cool. I was in Maryland near Baltimore, and the name is escaping me right now, but I can see the logo. It was a really good experience, but it really introduced me to a whole group of people from around the world who had type 1 diabetes, allowed me to care for kids with type 1 diabetes, which is a really empowering thing to be able to help with people experiencing this, but also just to normalize the chaos of it and to be able to see all the different types of it. And people who, going through those experiences, it makes you judge yourself less. It makes you love yourself more. It makes you more understanding of the process. And also, if you really feel like you're at your wit's end, and sometimes you will feel like that, you can reach out to other people and say, hey, what did you do when you felt this? Because likely someone experienced it. So just use all the resources. Just be grateful that you don't have to pay for any of that stuff.
I know, right?
That's one of the biggest pros, I think, of having been in child welfare and having type 1 diabetes. I didn't have to pay for any of it while I was there. Now I got to pay for it all. Oh, it is just so sad. Okay, but my final question for you is, and thank you so much. I want to thank you once again from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. This was amazing and a lovely conversation. Seriously, I love being able to connect with other Black women, because it's very rare that I can connect with other Black women who are able to relate to me on another level. Not just, life experience, but with diabetes, that is a whole different conversation, We
gotta get numbers. We gotta exchange.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm here for you. Consider me like an older cousin, a big sister.
Yes.
I wish I would have had someone like me when I was your age. And so I'll just leave it at that. So whenever have you will, whether it be child welfare related or type 1 diabetes, you have a friend in me, and I'm here.
Yes.
My final question for you, Destiny, is who are you without the trauma of the child welfare system?
Who am I? Wow. If one word was to explain me, I don't think that it would do me enough justice. But I would say that I'm an educated Black woman. I am strong. I am motivated. I am powerful, a positive woman, a supporter. There's so much more. But most of all, I would definitely say that I'm God's child, because even through so many different things, there's been times that I've had through the child welfare system and with me having diabetes that my life could have definitely been taken away. I just recently experienced a coma. I definitely could have never woke up out of that coma. And even throughout my experience through that, when I was coming out, the doctors were like, oh my God, thank God you survived. And even when I was going to my doctors, they were like, thank God you survived. There's a lot of people who don't. And so I think most of all, just throughout all these situations, I am glad that I'm protected. Yes.
I'm glad that you survived too. That is a really serious thing. Continue this time to heal up, and I'm here in whatever way you need me. And thank you again from the bottom of my heart. And thank you to our listeners for being here once again. This was another episode of InnerViews. Please come back next time.
Yes, my eyes.
The InnerViews podcast is a production of the Safe Camp Audio Network, which is a division of Youth Voices Rising via Fostering Media Connections. Please visit safecampaudio.org on the web or Safe Camp Audio on all major social media. This podcast was produced and mixed by Christine Onjoko. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you consider sharing, subscribing, and or giving us a 5-star rating on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you download your podcast.